Welcome back to Marketing Connected. I'm your host, Rizwana Manjur, and this is Agency Agenda, a show that puts the mic in front of agency leaders, diving into how they navigate the ever-evolving advertising and communications landscape. We have in the studio with us today Arshan Saha, WPP Media CEO for Singapore and Malaysia, and he's also handling the media management and delivery portfolio for APMEA. Before the agency's change in name, Arshan was the CEO for Group M Singapore and Malaysia, and he also had some long stints with Xaxis and Inity. With that, thank you so much, Arshan, for joining us in the studio. I don't know if you remember this. I think the first time I met you was when you were at Inity.
Yes, correct.
Years ago.
I know. Much younger, less grey. Yeah. And I think very open-eyed at that point.
Yeah. Well, it's been a rough couple of years at WPP. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I mean,
Yep.
consolidating some very iconic brands, changing leadership, many senior departures that you probably worked with very closely, some in the news, some not. As the CEO of the engine room in WPP Singapore and Malaysia, a role that you took on for about a year now, am I right?
Yep.
Yeah. What's been your first order of business? What is it like to be you?
Ooh. As you said, I think almost a decade and a half, 2 decades ago, life was very different. I think the ecosystem was very different. That was a stage in where marketing was thriving holistically. Digital was probably at its nascency, growing rapidly. And I think, as we all came into the frontier of this industry, there was incredible, tremendous growth back at that point.
Yeah.
Fast forward, today, where we sit here and we converse, I think the reality of that ecosystem and the industry has changed significantly. And it's not about WPP. I think it's about the ecosystem. And that is our clients, consumers, the way consumers are consuming content, media, it's all changed. And for where on the backdrop of that is what has resulted in that transformation that has been required, that change has been required from not just WPP, but I think many of the other agency holding companies as well.
Yeah. Being at a company for 15 years, seeing it change massively, surviving it, were there not moments where you felt, okay, am I up on the chopping block? How am I going to survive this? Or even I'm going to throw in the towel right now. Where did you have those moments?
Again, I'll be very candid with this one. I think it's been tough, not just for me, but I think for everyone. And that is something that if you're willing to surface, you're willing to share, you're willing to openly communicate, talk, I think that realization quite quickly comes through from everyone as such. I think for me personally, through the course of the last 24 months, as much as there's been a lot of challenges, I think throughout sort of my close to 15-year tenure at WPP, I've always sort of taken on new dimensions of roles over time. And that means being very adaptable to change, and sometimes being that catalyst of that transformation and change. And that just meant that in the last sort of 24 months, as we went through a lot of these changes, the ability to have that foresight of the requirement of our clients, the industry, and be able to see why we need to go through that change has perhaps been something that, in the toughest days when things go absolutely wrong, you're able to sort of crawl back home, go to bed, get up again, and as the sun rises, look and tell yourself, there is a clear vision, there is a clear direction, there is a clear need for change, and this is why we're doing it.
Sometimes rinse and repeat is the best way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that was the driver of motivation. Having sort of really good people that are surrounded by, and these are people I've worked for a long time, let it be my peers, some of the folks in my team. These are people I highly trust, I enjoy sort of spending time with, and I think vice versa, I hope at least, and for which I think that camaraderie carried us through as well.
Yeah.
That course of change and where we needed to get to.
Yeah, no, thank you for being so honest about it. I mean, I really do appreciate it. Some might say, during the whole Omnicom IPG merger, you guys got a bit of a break, a bit of a breather, where you weren't dominating headlines. But it was a difficult time, regardless of which holding company you were at, because as an industry, we work so closely with each other.
Yep.
Talent shifts from one place to another. We're frenemies to a certain point, and then when it's 6 p.m., we all go out and have drinks together, right? So, regardless of which holding company was going through it felt like a hit for the industry.
Absolutely.
To see people that you know are great having to move out or find new ways to for their livelihoods. So thank you for sharing that. Speaking of Holdco, when Cindy Rose took on the helm, it was, as a woman, I was like, wow, yes, they're like finally somebody outside the industry that is fantastic. And she emphasized on less holdco. Now, what does that mean for us in markets like Singapore and Malaysia, so far away from the US?
Yeah, I mean, I think firstly we are very excited since Cindy's come in. I think she's brought a very fresh perspective, and I think she's again coming with a lot of fanfare, a lot of optimism, a lot of energy, and her track record speaks for itself as well. At the same time, what does this mean for Singapore and Malaysia? I think first and foremost, the word terminology, whole agencies. I think again a lot of that shift changes that we've seen within WPP Media already have been signal defined points of where we need to move away from those silo-based models of the
Right.
past. The demand based of consumers of today and what clients' needs are much more integration, much more seamless through that derivement of creative content, commerce, that connection amongst these three components that define culture ultimately down in a local market level and translates down to a derivement of then how do you be much more agile, much more quicker, much more at the pulse of communicating to a consumer. This is ultimately the definement of what clients have been asking us for, why we've been shifting, and what we will see a hell of a lot of more of.
Yeah.
Specifically for Singapore and Malaysia, I think this. In Asia, we move much faster, and I think that speed, agility, and I think in some part also that agility of change that people are able to bring upon within these markets mean that speed to market, speed of translation of strategy in some part that comes through holistically as a collective company. But I think sometimes it's just the need of the market that we move faster, that ultimately surfaces to become global strategies, what we see. So very simply what I'm saying is we'll move even faster than for where or what we'll see from sort of a global directive.
Yeah, and I mean, in my many conversations with you, you've always been somebody who really puts the client's needs, client's views first. When, the news is so volatile, and yet behind the scenes, you guys are moving towards a North Star. You're trying to do something that's better for them. How do you balance what they're reading versus what you're trying to do? Respond to the criticism that all of this centralization isn't about moving faster. Maybe it's about cost cutting. Maybe you're just trying to make more for the bang for the buck, right? How do you educate them that this is really about delivering better results for them?
Look, I think probably the last 12 to 18 months made me realize something even more so. This industry and marketing as a whole is built as much as on capability, on trust, and also people.
Yeah.
I think that's a composition of what the success and the baseline of foundation of this industry and success is defined by. And that is ever more telling as you do significant transformation, and especially in the age of AI and agents coming into fray as well. Answering your question specifically, I think it's both internal and to clients. I think through the course of change, communication is probably the most critical component. And I think that reflection is always over communicate and repeatedly over communicate at the same time. And as you do that, be authentic and let them hear from you first, rather than from external sources or forces. I think that's been sort of my steep learning over the last year. And I think that's something that I've done as much as possible, both to the internal teams. Just keep communicating, keep speaking to people, keep giving them insight, answering the question as authentic as you can of what you have answers to, admit when you don't have the answers for,
Yeah.
and also don't brush off refinements of suggestions or feedback that comes through as well.
Yeah.
And similarly with that's the first thing we've done with clients, right? I think we've been very authentic and sort of open in conversation and just overly communicating at the same time of why are we doing what we're doing, which is a lot of feedback from clients, especially with that changing ecosystem, as I mentioned. And secondly, as we do what we do, there is going to be disruption, there is going to be chaos, but nothing comes easy through the course of transformation. You need to go through that disruption, that chaos in order to define the better future of where we want to build.
Yeah.
And I think, you'll be surprised that a lot of our clients have actually resonated because we've spoken to them, we've communicated to them on that derivement of that change or where we are headed to, and have been supportive as well in a lot of that sphere of going through that journey with us.
Yeah. What do you think clients are actually wanting on the clients on ground? What do they really want? Because I know you guys and every holding company is talking about AI, open intelligence is something that you guys are big on. But do clients really care about each of these solutions? Do they even know? Or are they like, just give me the best results possible? I don't care what.
I think it's it's a good question. First and foremost, I think there's a few factors, right? Clients, different industries, different segments, different categories. That disruption that we are seeing in the ecosystem is impacting clients directly.
Yeah.
And I think in a lot of these constitutions, that means trying to get more from less.
Okay.
And that means that pressure on marketing spends and how do you translate better ROI through less spends. And I mean, clients are not naive, clients are educated and have that foresight of where just simply putting pressure on an agency for results does not translate. We need to be co-invested into the value chain in order to make sure that is a value chain that can sustainably translate that expected results of with less marketing spend, how are we going to translate more ROI? So I think clients are significantly co-invested in us with us in this journey. And I think it's how do you then involve clients into that co-investment or collaboration as well? And this is then to my point of where communication is critical.
Yeah.
So we've spoken to a lot of clients to say how we get there is through a journey. And that journey is a composition of a few things. Firstly, I think with the rise of AI, with the rise of agents, with the rise of all of that we are seeing within this sort of buzzwords that are termed out there, it is in reality, it's bringing a lot more efficiency, effectiveness in the way that we work. So I think that is a lot of what we are conversing with clients and showing them the proof in the pudding of removing a lot of the repeatable tasks with automation and enabling, and also for our people internally, giving them that space, giving them that freedom and giving them that sort of capacity to do upstream strategic client-led work, which is what they've been seeking to do as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think the combination of then human and machine, which is what we always entail, if we find that right mix, which is happening and will continue to grow, that's the sweet spot of where then you're going to get with less marketing spend, higher, better ROI through predictive marketing, better consumer conversations, better consumer targeting, which is where we are headed as an industry.
In our last agency agenda conversation with Amrita from Publicis, she mentioned that, maybe artificial intelligence wasn't the right term. It should have been assisted intelligence, right? Because at the end of the day, that is what it's doing. It's assisting us so that we can do what we do best as humans.
Correct.
Build that conversation with the clients, build that connection to really understand the issues they face so we can service them better. Yeah.
Yep. Spot on.
I do want to talk about, the traditional media agency model. So with the launch of WPP production, you're merging media buying with content creation at a massive scale, right? So is this the end of the traditional media agency model? What is the media agency of the future then?
Well, I think the question is, what is the traditional media agency? I don't know. It's if ChatGPT, the traditional media agency, will be interesting to see what that output look like. I think I've been at the cornerstone of the future agency model for more than a decade now, and this is through the course of programmatic advertising and scaling that to addressable television, out of home, influencer, content, commerce, data, technology that, in the last decade, honestly, I think that traditional media agency is probably unheard of, from a position where I've sat in. And that's also been a reflection of that positive transformation that we've seen. What does an agency of the future looks like becomes more of the beckoning question. And I think an agency of the future model, it's less probably even tied to the word agency as such. It's a partner to clients who are deeply entrenched in their business. And that means having deep understanding, mutual trust, accessibility to everything from their data assets to their consumer foresight segmentation to their sales data. And for where, as that joint partners, we're able to architect, orchestrate, automate, and enable seamless conversations using everything from AI to high-level capability from the construct of strategy. So I think what we really see is a much more curated, customized partner for clients based off a client's category, business, growth ambition, geographies, sectors, where their consumers reside. It'll all be curated rather than sort of a one-size-fits-all sort of scaled single agency model.
So what does the madman of today look like?
I think that's down to us, right? It's I think bringing back a little bit of that fun into the industry. And I'm looking at you. You guys were at the center point of defining what that industry looked like, the center point of also attracting talent, showcasing the fun, recognizing the pride of the work that we do, making award ceremonies, bringing the whole industry together. I think that's been the center of gravity, right? So I think in this new age of where we go to, I think, that long stands and continues. We just need to bring back
the flair of the industry, the fun.
And I think it starts with all of us having that pride in what we do. I think we've lost a bit of that. Let's just say in some aspect pride, in some aspect importance of the role that we all play in the larger ecosystem as well. It's significant, it's meaningful, it's impactful. And I tell my kids sometimes when they ask me what do I do, and I give them a connotation of the type of work we do, type of client conversations. It's incredibly exciting, and through disruption, through change, through everything that we've seen, I believe it's a really exciting time to be in media and marketing. But one thing that we need to bring back is probably that pride, that energy, that collaboration of just respecting ourselves and respecting the work that we do.
I'm glad your family finds what you do interesting. My mom still thinks I write about the ads on the bus stop. So she literally thinks, oh, you wrote about this ad? I saw it, at the Marsiling bus interchange. So that's...
that's very interesting because it's also evolution of that consumer. It's funny. My mom is an avid user of TikTok. She spends more time on TikTok than I do.
Wow.
And my mom is not very young, and there are days when she complains and she goes, my head's spinning. This is like with age and everything else. And me and my sister give her the feedback. It's more so you've been on TikTok for the last 6 hours, sort of scrolling through content. That's probably the reflection of why you're feeling dizzy rather than age. But I think it gives you a sense of the changing facade of
my mom is a Reels girly.
She's a Reels girly. There you go.
Yeah.
Right.
Every other day.
They spend more time, and she sends me more TikTok videos. Then again, most of my TikTok consumption comes from videos that she sends actually, which is quite interesting. Yes.
All right. Okay. We're going to wrap up the conversation. So, it is called Agency Agenda. So what is it? What is on your agenda for the agency this year in Singapore and Malaysia? What can we expect from WPP Media this year?
I think what you can expect is to see a lot of that clear definement of strategy, vision, for which we very, very quickly put in place skilled transformation efforts coming to fruition. And we are seeing that every day already, let it be through clients resonating with the output that we are delivering, or clients looking at our strategy and saying, this is what we've been looking for, or our own people tying in or leaning into a lot of what have been double down focus areas of what we've been building. And what are those, I guess, is the question. I think in Singapore, Malaysia, both can differ slightly. I think being very authentic locally and really understanding the landscape of a local market.
Yeah.
That's the disposition of how we are approaching or we've approached a lot of that strategy as well. And in doing so, if you take Malaysia, for example, I keep saying this content commerce is a definement of the culture in that market.
Yeah, absolutely.
And for where our investment over the last decade into building out a very, very skilled creator-led influencer capability that is tied to content and commerce with development and scaled utilization of technology, value chain enhancement, workflow automation is starting to thrive in that market.
Yeah.
So I think that's incredibly exciting, and that becomes sort of the formulation of what I also believe is the future currency of a consumer in market as well. So that becomes really exciting.
How are you
as an
splitting
example.
the time between Singapore and Malaysia?
Oh, don't forget, I've got the third
and
component of APMEA as well. I think it's, as I said, I think it's team, people, trust, and the definement of the vision, the strategy, and it's the composition of all of these ingredients coming together.
Yeah.
And also getting that right level of collaboration to see that impact of change translate. So I think a lot of my time, and I read this book a while ago, that if you really want to see that impetus of transformation take impact and effect, as a CEO, you need to spend 70% of your time in those transformative components efforts. So I guess, that's been my focal point of defining the vision, the strategy, curating it, customizing it, let it be towards the market. And from there, then spending an unfair share of time in not just composition of that strategy, but rolling up your sleeve right down to client conversation, delivery of those, optimization of those, and really seeing them win. Because that's the only way that then, as an organization, people are going to reflect the importance, lean towards it, build trust, and also want to stay on and engage in that sort of winning momentum that we are starting to see.
Fantastic. You've got a lot on your plate. It's going to be an interesting year ahead. But we thank you for making time for us and sharing with us so candidly all that you've been through. I genuinely do think, as our industry moves forward, we do have to bring talent back in, fun back in, and you hit the nail on the head with that. And I hope that we see that in WPP as well. So thank you once again for being part of this episode of Agency Agenda. And to our listeners out there, if you're not, although this interview with Arshan Saha of WPP Media is over, we've got tons of other episodes you can catch on our Marketing Connected channel and YouTube. Be sure to follow us on Marketing Interactive's social media pages on Telegram, Instagram, and LinkedIn to get alerts on new podcast episodes. Once again, thank you for joining us on Marketing Connected, brought to you by Marketing Interactive. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks for having me as well.
Absolutely.